welcome to another episode of The Mind's Eye with Mike Lowry. Thank you guys for supporting this channel. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing. I really appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about perspective. Tune in. Okay guys, let's just jump right into it. Perspective. So based on what Webster says, it's the art of drawing solid objects on a two-dimensional surface so as to give the right impression on their height, width, depth, and position in relation to each other when viewed from a particular viewpoint. So for me, that just means like I can be sitting here and I can see a particular object from my perspective and my viewpoint, and someone else can be sitting over there from their perspective and their viewpoint, and they can see it completely different than the way I see it. Well, so as you know, Webster has multiple definitions of a particular word a lot of times. So definition number 2 is a particular attitude toward or way of regarding to something or a particular viewpoint. So that could be like, a particular situation, like something could have happened, in our lives or, experiences that we've come across. And I can experience that situation or have a perspective about that particular situation completely different than someone else. It doesn't mean that you're right. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. I do believe and understand that, we both can be right about the same thing and have different viewpoints about being right. I realize that a lot of our perspective is a lot of times based on our experience, like, what we've gone through in our lives, like how we were raised. I've learned to forgive people because maybe they weren't raised like me, and I had to have a different perspective about those particular situations because I used to hold people to a higher standard based on the way I was raised. And I came to the realization that, maybe they weren't raised that way. Maybe they really didn't mean any harm by how they perceived a particular situation that they may have been dealing with at the time. They've seen these situations reoccur multiple times in their lives, and they act the same way often. And then when they see someone else that could particularly act different, it seems foreign to them. But again, it doesn't, determine whether you're right or wrong. It doesn't determine, who has the better perspective or what have you. It leads to a conversation to where we can understand each other better and come to a common ground to where we can say, I didn't see it that way. Looking at it the way you look at it, I can see where you're coming from. I can see why you see things that way. And I think, for us as people, we argue so many times with different people about politics, race, religion, sexuality, about things where we don't even know the root cause of why people are driven to that particular perspective about certain things. We just sit there and jump into it and just like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. But if you listen and try to educate yourself or listen to where they come from or the roots of why they see things that way, then maybe you can say, well, maybe like if I came, up that way, or if I experienced those things, I might would see it the way you see it. The craziest things to me though, it's like in life, like we never see anything as an absolute, right? There's nothing like so concrete that it can't be wavered or shifted or adjusted. But we as people look at most situations like, dang, this is the only way it could be. This is the only possibility that it could be this way. And if it's anything else, then it's got to be wrong. I don't feel like that's a good perspective to have. I think we should go into any situation like with an open mind. Like, for an example, like we look at stuff and see things with our eyes and react to them. In my opinion, I think we should respond to them. Same thing for the way we listen to stuff. We hear it and react, and we don't necessarily respond. So with that being said, I think we should like take the time to like process what we see and process what we hear, which kind of like, again, started this whole channel about the mind's eye, because we see things, we hear things, we process things. But the reality of it is, how does our brain see things? How does our brain process what we see and hear? And if we can really fully take the time to process what we see and hear, I think that we would respond to things differently versus reacting to things the way we've been doing it. And so, like, with that being said, like, I listen to like sermons, motivational speakers, my dad, just wherever I can find wisdom, right? So Pastor Stephen Furtick would say, and quote, your situation is only as bad as you perceive it to be, which is powerful to me because I feel like a lot of times we set ourselves in situations where it's like, man, oh my God, I'm so this, I'm so that. But then you got to understand that someone else is actually going through probably way worse than you are, that's handling it and dealing with it a lot better than you are. So why do we perceive certain situations really to be as bad as they are? Is it because of what we've seen? Is it because of, our experiences? So I challenge you to kind of like, challenge that energy, get a better understanding and perspective of why you may see certain things the way you see certain things. Again, Pastor Dash Daniels says, if you let the devil have your future, you allow the pain that was in the past be pointless. So are we learning from our past hurt? Are we overcoming some of the things that we were dealing with? Do we look at every situation as fear, or a particular situation where I'm like, man, maybe because of what I went through, this situation is going to happen again because it looks familiar? But maybe you should have a better lens and, give people the benefit of the doubt, give life a benefit of the doubt, have a different perspective about situations and take that pain that you learned in your past and use it for good. Maybe help somebody with that, become stronger, use it as like motivation to overcome some of the things that you may have been through before. So also my dad is a pastor as well, Mr. Melvin Corey. And, one thing that he would say, and quote, you can find a positive in every negative if you look hard enough. There's been plenty of situations in my life where I'll look at like, why isn't this particular situation moving fast enough? Well, maybe God wants to slow you down. I always look at situations like I'm in a hurry to go somewhere. And usually the times I'm in a hurry, a lot of times I get held up by whether it's traffic or whether it's I had to stop by somewhere and the cashier is taking forever or whatever. I thought to myself, was like, maybe God's protecting me from what's ahead or clearing a path for me. It's all about perspective. Like, if you can really, live your life in a way of thinking differently than the way we've been thinking in the past, or see things differently or hear things differently. It's all about processing them in your mind, which is what I like to call your mind's eye. I think that we all should do that. So what I want to challenge you guys to do is, look at situations to understand them. Try to have that full perspective of whatever it is that you might be dealing with, whatever it is you might be hearing or seeing or, experiencing. I feel like, at this point in our lives, we have to start making, better choices and being more responsible for the things that we do daily. You know what I mean? We can't keep using excuses of our past, what we've been through, our experiences. Now let's take a conscious stance and try to have the best perspective possible and moving forward with whatever situation that we may be dealing with, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And I wish you the best. I love y'all. Well, guys, that's episode number 10. And as I've stated before, I really do appreciate you guys' support. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.